All right, sisters and brothers, now I want you to look at this picture and tell me what you see. Do you see perhaps two faces? Or do you see a vase? Indeed, it's an optical illusion where you can actually see both faces as well as the vase. Correct? Now, why are you looking at this optical illusion, you're asking me? Because in today's gospel text, we are being challenged, folks, to see things in two different ways. First, how the world sees things, and then secondly, how God sees things. And seeing things through the eyes of God is truly an essential step in becoming God's people in the world. Now then, imagine with me for a moment that you're watching a movie, and there's a particular scene at a familiar Florida beach on a beautiful sunny day, and there's a large crowd on the beach. You can imagine that. And as usual, there's some sit there that are picnicking, and then there's others that are sunbathing, and there are some who are tossing a frisbee, but no one's in the water. And now you notice a large sign at the edge of the water that says, "No swimming." But you also notice that there's a lifeguard on duty. And then you hear this horrible scream from the water where someone was trying to swim despite the sign, and that person is now in great danger. But the lifeguard doesn't even make a move. He just looks toward the drowning person and he yells, "You should have read the sign! Why did you go in?" And then suddenly someone does jump up from the beach, races to the water, jumps in the water, and saves the person that's about to drown. But do you think he was treated as a hero? No, not at all. The lifeguard and his buddies were yelling at the swimmer who's saving the person's life, "You didn't read the sign either, did you?" And then they look at each other and say, "How are we ever going to have any order around this beach if people don't obey the rules?" Absurd, you might say. Of course it was absurd. Or maybe yesterday you saw 20 or 30 elderly people crowded together on that beach, and they're all greeting each other with hugs and kisses, and some of them are sneezing, and some of them are coughing, and none of them have a face mask on. And you recognize one of them as your uncle, so you quickly race over to give him a hug. Absurd? Yes. Of course it is absurd. But actually no more so than our gospel text from the Gospel of John that I just read. Now there are a couple of ways of dealing with the absurdity of this particular passage, of looking at this story. One is from the perspective of the blind man. We can first think for a moment about what it means to be blind and the difficulty of just getting through the day, or what it means to be cut off from family and friends. We must quickly face the music of not only what a struggle it is to cope with nothing but darkness in the world, but also with the guilt that overwhelms a blind person when others try to point to him for saying that is the reason that you're blind, because you sinned. Or maybe we have to cope with the anger inside of our souls when we're told it was something that our parents did that caused our blindness. So, folks, if we follow the blind man in today's text, we quickly realize it's going to be a journey from being a sinner in the eyes of the world to becoming a believer in Jesus Christ as the Messiah. Or seeing through a different set of lenses, we can take a different perspective. We are taught at an early age to search for and surround ourselves with the strongest and smartest people. We are encouraged to find those people and those things that help us to become the most successful and the most efficient, aren't we? But this is also a skill that sometimes blinds us, isn't it? For example, when Jesus and his disciples were encountering the blind man, the disciple of Jesus assumed that the man's blindness was some kind of curse, or perhaps a punishment for sin. And unfortunately, this belief still exists in some form today, but Jesus clearly rejected that myth. In ancient times, however, blindness did indeed prevent people from entering most professions, and so this man, whose name we don't even know, had been forced to spend his entire life as a beggar. Merely surviving, instead of being able to live out his dreams. But Jesus Christ changed all that by giving this blind man not only eyesight, but also a sense of mission, and most importantly, a sense of value. And don't you wish it could really be that simple? I mean, Jesus gives sight to a man born blind with just a little spit, a little dirt, and a few words. It seems so improbable, doesn't it? But not with our God. And so after performing this ancient medical procedure, Jesus directs the man to wash in the pool of Siloam. And now the man only knows one thing for sure. He can see. He can see, while everyone else seemed too busy looking for something else. So busy that they can't really see his restored sight as a miracle. The miracle that it was. Indeed, the man emerged from the pool with a sense of mission and self-worth that absolutely stunned his neighbors. They simply could not believe that he was the same person, that nuisance who used to sit and beg. Yes, his encounter with Jesus Christ filled him with new hope, that he just might have a life with a purpose, a real purpose. But his neighbors weren't sure they could accept his story, so they sent him for an examination, so to speak. He must be examined by the local authorities. And of course, the local authorities, who were knowledgeable of the religious laws, were especially suspicious because Jesus had worked this miracle on a Sabbath day, which broke the law. So they drove this man out. And you know, I think these words are the saddest words in the whole story of the healing of this blind man. They drove him out. The Pharisees, having dragged this healed man in for questioning, rejects his witness. This man who had lived his entire life blind, living as a beggar, is healed, and then through no fault of his own, is redealt the very same cards, folks. Can you believe it? They drove him out. Now, those of you who remember last Sunday's story of the woman at the well, isn't the contrast between this story and the story of the woman at the well absolutely remarkable? What a contrast. The Samaritan woman is able to share the good news of Jesus, the Jew, with the people of Samaria, and the people actually respond. Are you kidding? Samaritans believing the words of a Jew? Yes. But the blind man is dragged in, and then he is drove out. As I said at the beginning of this message, we are being challenged today to see things as God sees them. In fact, Jesus said these words, I came into this world for judgment, so that those who do not see may see, and those who do see may become blind. Some of the Pharisees heard these words, and they said to him, surely we are not blind, are we? And Jesus said to them, would not have sinned, but now that you say we see, your sin remains. So, dear friends, the claims by the Pharisees to be able to see indicates their misunderstanding concerning Jesus' identity, but also denial of God's miraculous works occurring through Jesus Christ. They are truly dealing with some blind spots, aren't they? And to be honest, I must confess, as the days and weeks of Lent pass by, I am personally being challenged more and more and more in my own faith, with my own blind spots. Where am I turning a blind eye to those in need? Who am I choosing to drive out of myself? These are very uncomfortable questions, yes. But truly, unless I look into the mirror and see the differences between how I live and how I am called to live by Jesus Christ, there will always be a blind man here. So, sisters and brothers, when we are trying to control the scripts of our lives, and we all do this, we are very much like the religious leaders in our text today. That is, if God doesn't fit into our expectations, we just slam the door in his face. And yes, there are times in our lives that God makes us deal with that, doesn't he? Why? Because slamming that door can absolutely rob us of the joy of knowing and experiencing the power of God in our own lives. So in the 4th chapter of John, the Samaritan woman does not slam the door in Jesus' face. No, indeed, at the well, that woman of Samaria only found Jesus when she stepped outside the circle that had been drawn by those who judged her, and then walked through the door. She didn't slam it. She walked through that door to be transformed by the love of Jesus Christ. And that, to me, folks, is the most powerful lesson in the story of the blind man. We must not be so blind in our own little worlds that we don't see others' needs. For when we have experienced in our own lives the mighty, mighty power of God, we see people differently, don't we? We see issues. We see circumstances differently, don't we? For none are so blind who think they can see without God's grace and mercy. So folks, why not step out in blind faith, so to speak, and give it a try. Wash the mud and the spit from your eyes and experience the miracle of our resurrected Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I was lost, but now I'm found.